Today we are going to sort of take forward the theme that we discussed last year, and we'll talk about, because the world is still disrupted. It's not like everything has settled down. There are things that are changing on a daily basis. Every day there's something other happening, and businesses are having to adjust all the time, right? Typically large corporations take time to adjust. It's not something that can be done quickly, very fast, unlike maybe in startups where the things can move faster because the levels of hierarchy of management are lesser. But even then, the challenges are several. So we have today the topic, which is India in a fragmented world, opportunities and challenges for global and local leaders. And we have a great group today again here in Hyderabad. We have a slideshow prepared for you. And we have Mr. Raja Bhanu. He is the Director General of the Pharmaceutical Export Council of India. The PharmExcil, it's the apex body. It promotes Indian pharmaceutical exports worldwide. It covers APIs, formulations, biotech products. It organizes trade delegations, buyer seller meets, compliance support for exporters, and with a focus on regulated markets. Under Mr. Bhanu, PharmExcil is also driving initiatives to elevate export quality, right? And expand India's global market share, which is already quite a bit. India is supposed to be the pharmacy, basket of the world or something. There's this
Pharmacy of the world.
Pharmacy of the world, right? And Madhi will also relate to that, I'm sure. And he is also engaged in supporting MSMEs in technology adoption and regulatory compliance. Next, we have, sitting next to me, Mr. Balasubramanian. He's the CEO of Shrestha Natural Bioproducts, famously known for the 24 Mantra organic brand. He's a pioneer in India's organic food segment. The company promotes certified organic farming, sustainable agriculture, and farm to fork integrity. Wow. 34,000 farmers produce grains, pulses, spices, other organic staples, adhering to USDA, EU, and Indian organic standards. So under him, under Bala, Shrestha continues to expand consumer awareness of chemical-free food. He made me very aware of it a couple of years ago when we met. Next, we have Brahmani Nara, sitting next to me here. Brahmani is the Executive Director of Heritage Foods. Heritage Foods operates in dairy, and you are integrating farmers into your supply chain.
Oh, significantly. We work with 300,000 farmers on a daily basis. We go to them twice a day. We procure milk from them directly.
And where are these farmers?
Across the country, 19 states, including all of the southern part of India, Maharashtra, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and Punjab.
So you connect small-scale farmers with organized markets, right? Well,
yes,
ensuring
that's
product
right.
integrity. Fantastic. And Brahmani as ED, she contributes insights on rural supply chains, agribusiness sustainability, and strategies to scale operations. Next, we have Harsha Vardhana Gaurineni. I got the pronunciation right, he confirmed. He is the Executive Director of Amara Raja, famously known for the Amaron batteries, but they've gone much beyond that. But anytime I say Amara Raja, I say, oh, Amaron. Yeah. So you're still very well, it's like Colgate toothpaste. Amara Raja means Amaron. Even my car has Amaron batteries. So it's a leading manufacturer of automotive batteries as well as industrial power solutions, allied components. Anything else?
We've gotten into the new energy game.
New energy game, yeah. You also have a focus on energy storage, which is great for our country. It's much needed. Mobility, supply chain resilience, and the company serves diverse industrial and consumer markets in India. Harsha, he drives strategy, he drives operational excellence across manufacturing and product innovation. I'm trying to tell you what you do, right? Highlight the challenges and opportunities in scaling industrial infrastructure and ensure sustainability in high volume production sectors. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think one additional big thrust area is globalization for us.
Globalization, wonderful. Just the thing we need in today's discussion. Right, then next we have Mr. Masood Malik. Mr. Malik is the Managing Director and Group CEO of focuses on sustainable development, environmental management, and ESG advisory for businesses, correct? It helps organizations integrate circular economy practices, resource efficiency, and long-term ecological strategies into their operations.
We handle about 70% of India's industrial waste, little over 10 million tons a year. So industrial hazardous waste. We also serve about 45,000 hospitals every day, managing their hospital waste. We are also the largest recycler across various commodities. So everything from precious metals recovery at one end of the value spectrum to construction waste at the other end of the value spectrum. We try and recycle everything. And but we're most excited about trying to develop an ecosystem of circularity in the country with many partners.
I think you'll find a partner there in Dr. Khan, right? He was talking about circularity in the briefing. Okay, next we have, please move, Mr. Mahesh Godi. Mahesh is the founder and CEO of Godinova India. It's an emerging enterprise in manufacturing and technology, representing innovative mid-sized Indian businesses. It focuses on growth, operational excellence, and adapting to dynamic industry requirements. And what do you exactly do?
We are into the energy storage and also building a AI stack on it, connecting the entire dots of energy production to storage, to the transmission, to the discoms, to the consumer. So there's a big opportunity for the next generation technologies which we are working on it. Yeah.
So to your concern, there are lots of cross connections at this table, right? In fact, a hospital man is sitting right next to Mr. Malik there. So next is coming up is Madhivanan Balakrishnan. I met him famously. I don't think he remembers at all, but he was the CTO of ICICI Bank. We met at one of these conversations in Mumbai long time ago. Now he is the CEO of Apollo Health Co. and the Chief Digital Technology Officer of Apollo Group. It's a part of the Apollo Group, which is famous. We all know the Apollo Group delivers healthcare services, including hospitals, diagnostics, allied infrastructure. This company focuses on scalable healthcare solutions, patient care quality, and it's all, I think, built on the backbone of the technology that you bring in, technology expertise. Wonderful. We have Dr. Irfan Khan. He is the founder, chairman, and CEO of EBG Group. It's a diversified industrial and engineering focused enterprise. It also operates across energy solutions. How nice. Advanced manufacturing and infrastructure services. So, and finally we have with us Siddharth Shankar. Siddharth Shankar there's only half of his designation there. He is partner, he is also co-chair of the corporate practice at JSA Advocates and Solicitors. All of us are familiar with JSA, one of India's biggest law firms. It has more than 700 professionals across 7 cities. And they serve everybody, right? From Indian corporates, Fortune 500 companies, governments, financial institutions. I can see you getting all lifted up with the description, but they deserve it, good stuff. And of course, JSA is Mint's partner in this whole initiative, and we thank them for giving us this opportunity. And finally, there is me. I am Lokesh Bhattacharya. I am Deputy Managing Editor of Mint. I look at the front page of Mint. I am the co-editor, not alone. There are 2 people who handle the front page of Mint every day. I am one of them. And I also curate discussions like these, conversations. I really enjoy them. So before we start throwing questions at you, I just want to give a small bit of context around what we are discussing. Ever since Mr. Trump came, even before that, there were several tremors. The Ukraine war had started, and there were other troubles going on. But after Mr. Trump came, especially geopolitical tensions and macroeconomic instability and shifts, they are now reshaping how global businesses adapt and how they react to various situations. If you look at it, even the free trade agreements that India has and several other countries has, they were really accelerated after Mr. Trump came, and we started going hell for leather. Jaldi se FTA close karo. You see, with EU, with this and that, and UK was, I think, fast tracked, right? We have 15 active FTAs at this point, and negotiations are still happening, as we are all reading every day, with the USA and with EU also, but there are several others that have happened. And FTAs, of course, like they impact access, and they facilitate access to markets through lower duties, through other benefits that helps us do more business, right? And in India, the structural and regulatory challenges are persisting. Today, of course, the good news was that Mr. Malhotra, the governor of RBI, cut the repo rate by another 25 basis points. So that is 125 basis points since February, I think, right? Which is a lot. I'm not sure if February is correct or not, but 125 since he came to the chair of the RBI governor. So this one was completely unexpected, especially after the Q2 GDP numbers, right, of 8.2%. Nobody expected him to. I remember my reporter, I was editing that story, and the reporter was saying, don't say it is definitely off the table. It may still happen. You know, the repo rate cut. I said, are you sure? You know, 8.2% growth and inflation below 1%, right? It's around hovering around 1%, the CPI. What do you need a rate cut for? Then it has happened. So obviously a push for growth, which is good news for all of us. But there are other challenges. Infrastructure gaps are still there. Workforce gaps are still there. Skill gaps are still there. The kind of people we need, we don't get. Right? There are too many people looking for jobs with skills that you don't need. And even if you hire somebody, you'll have to really train them hard, right, for a few months before they can work to you. So it's a tough world out there. Life is not easy, and it's become tougher in recent months. And that is what we are going to tackle today, to see what are the main challenges and how we can address them, right? So, like I had mentioned earlier, we'll start with a rapid fire. But I'm going to give this a twist. Okay, so in the questions that you got, the first question was from your sector's perspective, what is the single biggest risk? But I can't, I'm too tempted with seeing all of you here today to ask first of all, from the country's point of view, what is the single biggest risk to growth in India today? From an Indian economy perspective, what do you see as the toughest challenge? And then your industry. So we'll go around the table. Short answers, okay? Bala.
I think disparity in incomes.
That was what I was thinking was last year's. Disparity in income.
Well, personally speaking, I feel the whole environmental issues and political instability. Political instability and the environmental issues.
Political instability?
Yeah. Worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah, okay.
But geopolitically, I feel that a lot of these factors do play a role, with the trade war and other things playing large roles in how supply chain gets impacted. Aspects of these will always have a very large impact on the overall growth pattern.
What about regulatory changes? Too many regulatory changes happening?
We've seen November itself, we've seen two very large changes that have happened. One is the whole data protection, which has become live, and then we see the labor codes. 29 legislations of laws have been combined into 4 labor codes.
But that has still not been activated, right?
It's been activated. See, the labor codes comes in the concurrent list of the constitution. So the states have to adopt it. Some of the states have already adopted it. Some of the states will adopt it eventually.
Some will never do it. Like
some will object to it, but it's a political issue again, because if you don't adopt it, it is labor friendly. So if you don't adopt it, it is. In some ways, it is. Yeah, we will. But what I'm trying to say, all of a sudden, for lawyers, is a lot of work. But our BD team was doing a podcast, and there were 600 people or some webinar who joined from the HR department of different companies, because everybody gets impacted. End of the day, everybody's getting impacted. So I think, of course, regulatory frameworks do play a role, but there are many which is happening in India. As we are looking at, we are seeing the winter session going on. We do expect the insurance law coming in. So India is a dynamic country in that sense of what's going to happen next year, you don't know.
More dynamism in recent months than ever. Mr. Banu.
Thank you for this opportunity, being with all the distinguished panelists and all. Of course, we have made it something like a KBC, demand-related, supply chain, financial and regulatory. I don't know where from I should start with that and all, the risk-wise and all. The demand part, as you all know that I think as a drugs and all, I think as a worldwide it is almost like 1.6 trillion kind of a thing, the business, and it is growing beyond 2030 and all, it will be almost like 2.4 billion kind of a thing. So as far as the demand part is concerned, as long as the diseases are there, drugs has to be...
That's not supposed to be very good news.
No, as long as the diseases are there, drugs has to be supplied. I think that way the demand for the global market is still there. And as far as supply chain is concerned, yes, as we all know that the water will somehow flow to the place. So the supply chain will make its routes and all. So now I'll take as a risk factor, I'm from a regulatory background, more of 3 decades into the regulation of the Food and Drug Administration in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So for me, the rate limiting step for anything to be produced and then marketed will be the regulatory
complexity and regulatory unpredictability. If these are things are not tackled and all, you cannot put, I think if you can see that, I think by 2030 around 250 billion USD products, I mean, to the worth of 250 billions will go off patent. Ours is more of a generic market. Ours is a generic manufacturing also, 99% kind of things we do. And of course, the Indian pharma market is around 60 billion, 57 billion, and more than half of it goes to the world side. All these years, we try to put all the eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Around 1/3 is going to US and the rest, of course, the rest of the world.
Yeah,
so now we have to check whether the other regulatory aspects are really affecting us or not. So that will be my risk. And of course, the financial, the invisible thing which really runs the world, really runs the entire industry is the financial constraints. I think the MSME will be, is the one which will have such challenges in that way.
Okay. Mahesh, what's the biggest risk to India?
So if you see the biggest risk that will come to Indian market, Indian economy is the technology and R&D. If you see, we are somehow living in the copycats of Western world and China. It's very unfortunate. We see a lot of people are brain running still from India. So if you are not putting the money, the kind of capital it required for the technology that going in an insane way in Western countries, and predominantly in China. Like we look at China is almost like 10 years ahead of everything, right? So that's the biggest thing for us. The other biggest challenge in Indian market is if you look at the access to capital. There's a free capital is available in Western world and China, but getting a huge capital into Indian ecosystem or Indian the regular businesses is quite challenging, right? So, and the third biggest problem is infrastructure issues. See, just look at the surrounding of this Taj only. Still, we have a lot of problems of the infrastructure, right? But if you see the other world, which is like a developing world, and these are very fundamental problems, right? So that's where the R&D to innovation and technology and the finance and also the infrastructure is the key enablers what we're envisioning for 2047, right? So if that is not going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, it's just like we are living in a dream world, and if somebody is going to solve our problem, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, capital has been a persistent issue, right? But then you cannot really compare the capital of China with the capital that India gets. Right? In that sense, it's slightly different. But we'll argue about that.
Yeah.
But Bangalore, for instance, the discussion we had almost entirely was on capital. There's no capital. Mohandas Pai was sitting there and screaming, all these guys, they are giving money to their cronies and all, and no money for us. So give us the money, we'll show you what we are capable of and all that. Dr. Khan, what's the biggest risk to India?
So according to me, what I feel, carbon emission is the biggest risk in India.
Okay.
Because right now, business are thinking more into generating EBITDA and profits, and EBG here, Empowering Better Globe, we always consider how to reduce carbon emissions in businesses, making sustainable businesses, addressing real challenges. As well as I want government to introduce a sort of carbon calculator to assess, audit any business how much emission they are doing, in terms of telling them to do some offset strategy as well. So that is what actually is much needed rather than the profits. So we made profits, we made good profits so far, but right now we have to live for our inherent child. So hence I feel the carbon emission is the biggest risk.
Madhi?
No, I will go with what Bala said. Income disparity within our country, not only in the current context, but in spite of the growth that we are showing, I think the disparity is continuously expanding. And that's a big worry personally. So while there is growth on one side, we have a very consuming segment which is growing at a breakneck speed. I think the disparity is increasing. I mean, this classical case of India, Bharat, while it sounds very nice, the ability to take everybody together is a big story. And relation to that is affordability. And you can link it with inflation on one side, but if I were to put it in the context of healthcare, I come from the banking industry, I spent almost 2.5 decades there. whether it be, it's a huge pyramid with a very few people driving the two core industries, which sort of drives more multiple virtuous cycles. Healthcare, it is much more disheartening. Very fragmented markets, prices going through the roof, and therefore affordability and inflation will only make it even more. So on one side, I'm getting less income. There is a disparity which is huge. On the other side, the availability, which is the supply side of the story, is becoming more and more expensive. Yeah. I think like roti kapda and makan, I would go with this. I would really worried about carbon emission. I'm worried about some of the other environmental stuff. But for the stage that we here, I think this is one big area which we need to
If I can just add, from my perspective, it's also about, people in multiple fields, whether it's energy or dairy or agriculture or whatever, scaling, right? For us, even businesses to scale, this income disparity or a handful of people having money and majority not having the means to afford will create a big problem. And we are therefore not seeing too many brands, too many businesses, kind of able to scale to a global level.
Very true. Right? Yeah.
So that's the reason I said, because you can show that we are a X trillion economy and all of that, but the reality is it will be so fragmented that no one or no few companies or brands or businesses will really scale to the extent which will make India what it should be.
India doesn't have any global brand, right? Not a single one,
right.
despite Tata's and Reliance, of course, is a completely homegrown brand, domestic brand, but I think Tata's somewhat maybe with very, very niche, like with maybe the Land Rover and Jaguar, and a little bit of Hindalco with the acquisition of Novelis, which happened long time ago. Similarly,
I think in the near term, private sector capex or lack thereof, I see as the biggest near-term risk to the country, and the reason being that the government has practically run out of its sort of bag of tricks. We are seeing withdrawal of state sector capex. GST and all the benefits of that have already been released. There may be some more, but those will be few and far between. For the kind of growth over the next 3-4 years at least, for us to sustain and accelerate along the trajectory that we've all been promising each other, private sector capex needs to come in and substitute the state capex or the government capex, and that is a story that's yet to be written. So that's one. I think longer term, if I go into the 5-year, 10-year horizon, I'm really concerned about job creation in a world where automation and AI will actually reduce availability of jobs. For welfare economies, they always have other ways of dealing with it. For a country like India, gainful job creation in the context of the AI revolution, and whether it's 3 years from now and we have AGI, or 5 years from now whether we have AGI, economics will take over, and we will have a real problem in employing the millions and millions of new graduates that are coming out of schools every year. Yeah. So these are two concerns that I have today.
You already have a major problem with joblessness, right? And in fact, you're talking about government revenues. The bank really to use for capex spending. The GST changes were very good for us, but we saw the data yesterday, and the November GST numbers were really low, the tax collections, because of all these cuts.
Which is why I think private sector needs to start really opening up its purses, and we're not seeing that yet, especially anywhere close to the kind of the state-funded infrastructure schemes that were there in the last 5 years. Yeah. And the impact they had on the economy and on rural demand and all of that. I'm not seeing that kind of sort of exuberance in capex spending coming from the private sector.
Yeah, let's see. We've got two hotshot private sector companies who are investing. You're investing a lot of money, right?
Planning to, and I think...
Planning to, okay. Not yet started.
So I believe one of the largest risks the country is facing is around supply chain dependence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think whether it's energy imports, or spanning all the way anything like specialty chemicals. Largely things are coming into the country. Of course, some sectors that might not be the case. This creates a lot of constraints for us. Doesn't allow us to, we don't have a strong domestic supply chain. We don't reach the scale in which we can compete globally, in which imports aren't, a threat domestically. If these ecosystems can get nurtured and incubated, it really creates many of the other things that fellow panelists have talked about around bringing more around technology, around creating jobs at different levels, right? R&D, product development, or participation in advanced manufacturing. That's what a robust supply chain can bring about. And of course, right now, if we just, I know it's about the country, not a sector, but to illustrate, if we look at the sector around, the new energy landscape, all roads at the moment lead to China, whether it's around, whether it's EV, the components, the materials, the processing technology, the processing equipment, the ownership and operation of mines across the world. That's a huge risk and concern.
The rare earth magnets too.
And everything else.
It really stopped our industry.
Right, so it's not a simple thing to overcome, but I think we need to take steps in that direction. A huge level of policy enablement is required for that. I think many people, like Mahesh as well, we're taking steps in that direction. And I think as more organizations are building that up, core pieces of that ecosystem can be built. But that policy enablement is a must and a requirement. Then the other end of supply chain, the outbound, I think need to diversify our trading partners. We see what happens when on one hand we kind of tripled with our oil procurement and how that's being used against us in tariffs, right? This has to be de-risked. We need to take advantage of different FTAs coming online, whether it's what's happened with UK, what's already happened with Australia. With our neighbor also, we need to figure out how to neighbor to the east. Right, bilateral trade I think needs to pick up. It's largely one way right now, and overall the competitiveness will only increase from that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the point I was trying to say. The supply chain is always going to be a challenge in the political instability issue.
I mean, we've been saying supply chain is going to be a challenge. The question is, how do you fix it?
Also, the way we fix it, I don't know if that's part of your question, but what you fix it is leveraging on your world trade agreements. You leverage on agreements, like for example, let's take an example with what we've done in UK. We've signed it in July of 2025. We can leverage it because under the free trade agreement that we've done with the United Kingdom, you can actually, and this is purely from a healthcare perspective I'm talking about, you can actually use services and healthcare practices, good practices of United Kingdom in India, and similarly supply your pharmaceutical products and other things to the United Kingdom. That's part of the FTA. We need to leverage on our FTA, on the supply chains. We need to see how do we draft our contractual agreements in order to take care of some of those force majeure, hardship, materially adverse effect clauses. But the supply chain is always going to be a challenge with the trade wars that have started, exactly how you briefed when you started this conversation.
Ramani,
I think I'll go back to the same point, which is supply chain disruptions.
Okay.
Although from a dairy standpoint, I think or an agri standpoint, I feel it's not just geopolitical in nature, but also when it comes to climate change. And I think estimates show us that supply chain related disruptions because of climate change have lost about $3.3 trillion in agri economies globally in the last 3 decades.
Just take the example of Sri Lanka, for example.
There you go. Sri Lanka was a great example. So this is across fruits and vegetables and cereals, pulses, dairy, meats, eggs, etc. So I think that's a huge risk that we need to deal with. And the more and more we go forward, it's becoming a bigger reality. Q1 of this year itself in India, we've seen with untimely, unseasonal rains and colder weather conditions, how that impacted consumption, and as a result, how that impacted farmers at the farm level. So I think that's something that we need to, climate change resilience, because of heat waves, droughts, storms, floods, whatever else it is, we need to find means and ways of hedging this risk.
So what exactly is the supply chain issue in the foods and dairy sector, right? Is it only about, let's say, the cold chains that have really not worked in India or that have not scaled up?
Well, I think it just starts fundamentally from the supply or the production itself, right? There are some standard cycles for production or supplies. So in the case of dairy, at the time that your milk supply is supposed to be abundant, it is not all of a sudden because of this. Okay. And the predictability of understanding this is still very immature. On the other hand, we work on really low margins. A lot of agri-businesses, in dairy it's about 8-10% sort of EBITDA margins. All of a sudden sales also get affected because summer season Q1 is when your maximum sales happen, and once that does not happen, then it has a cascading effect on the rest of bottom line, etc.
I think, look, fundamentally I've been in similar space for 35-36 years, and Alokesh very well that everyone talks about 30% whatever wastage in our entire agri production system, and I think this has been talked about from the 80s. And till today, even a minister, everyone talks about the 30%. No one has measured it. Someone said 30%, everyone repeats 30%. Have you taken enough steps to rectify? If you're losing 30% of a produce in reality, what are the things you have done? Cold chain is only one part of the equation, right? Given the fragmented nature of our farmers, small farmers, marginal farmers, and, like Brahmani said, let's say production is dependent so much on the climate and availability of natural resources. It's not predictable. Your demand is not predictable. And therefore this whole cycle, and I'm seeing it for 37 years as a professional, right? There are scenes where farmers have thrown tomatoes in the field and not even had the guts to take it to a market because they don't recover the transportation cost. This was in 1980s and 90s. And 5 years back, I was in Rajasthan. Our farmers were growing wheat. They also grow onions in Rajasthan, in a place called Navalgarh, which is about 130 kilometers from Delhi. That's it. They had left the onions in the field because they were getting 2 rupees a kilo for that. Right? So it's a cycle, right? Even yesterday, I think that's what I mentioned. Heightened's article says there's a farm distress because some pulses prices are down and so on. So it's a cycle which I think we've all been seeing for 35, 37, 40 years consciously, but not much has been done. And okay, some private enterprises, obviously there are people who are doing some, as I call, pockets of excellence, but as a whole, we're still not anywhere near finding solutions to this. And so supply chain is infrastructure and, entire ability to sort of, predict, create demand where required, all of those, right? So it's just that.
What about in organic farming, which is what your company does? Is it similar kind of issues? You found a way around it?
No, it's even more difficult, right? Because we go to, like I said, 35,000 farmers, we have 170,000 acres of cultivation. But I can't do everything everywhere. Like you asked her, we don't go to a Punjab or a UP or whatever because the pesticide levels are already so high. So we are restricted by the, where we can grow what crop. So we are very specific about certain varieties and certain geographies and so on. So if I have floods in Maharashtra, in the place I'm growing my pulses, I don't have a choice. Okay, so it's even worse for us in that sense, right? And then, of course, the whole equation of aggregation, because the volumes are even lower, so supply chain becomes even more tough. And we can't use so many things which, a typical traditional process can use. So it makes it more difficult for us.
You have something to say.
I just wanted to share another example. There are certain problems that infrastructure can fix, but there are certain issues that are irreversible, unfortunately. The issue of mango belt and its shift because of climate change. The fact is, mango's sweet spot was a combination of temperature, rainfall, soil type. Now, because of climate change, the latitude and longitudes have shifted slightly northwards, but now suddenly on the Deccan Traps you cannot grow mangoes because the weather patterns required doesn't match the soil type anymore. And there is a shortage of mango paste that I'm sure my friends know much more about, which unfortunately, I can't figure out if there is a easy way out of it. So yes, adaptation to climate change, but I think the impact itself will manifest itself over the next several decades in ways that we cannot even predict today. We're looking back to understand the future, but it becomes more and more difficult because the rate of change is so fast.
Yeah, but before you speak, just don't lose the thread. Okay, you are talking about China and about how China dominates all the supply chains. Do you know China sells more langda aam than India does? Exports. China sells Indian mangoes made in China. They export more of it than India does.
I feel
there's a story behind it.
I feel compelled to speak up on the mango situation. We actually have a mango processing unit in Chittoor. So big mango belt. And I agree, a lot of things are changing. Seasons are getting shorter. Ramani mentioned unseasonal rain, so that wreaks havoc both on quality and availability. And of course, there's no consistency. Season to season, it's very hard to really provide that support to the farmers because we directly engage. And it's also not a product where you get any real support from policy, from government, right? So I think if this is happening to something like mango, which is very specific, I think, to India, and the consumption is largely India, Southeast Asia, I would keep Latin America a little separate. I can only imagine for other staples, right, how climate change is wreaking havoc, inability to have any real forecasting, and of course livelihoods are then demolished. If tomatoes, or in some cases even mangoes, are thrown to the road because the market and the price are just not matching. It's much more than consumerism. These are livelihoods.
Some of these issues have been around for very, very long, right? Many of these issues, the fact that we are behind, we don't have money to invest in our startups, the capital that we need, the fact that the state invests more than the private sector in infrastructure, long gestation projects, right? Private capex we've been talking about a long time about why private capex is not, stepping in, right, to support the government. The government has also been saying it a lot, but not much is happening despite a lot of investments. Carbon emissions have been a problem for a fairly long time, and I think we crossed 1.5 degrees this year, right, before the COP, and so the entire equation has now been tossed into the ocean, and now we are saying, okay, I think 2.5 or something now we are saying, right, it has to be controlled within that. Even that will go away in a few years. Job creation has been a major problem all through, right. If I look at it from, when I was in college and I was looking for a job, you'd go to the local employment exchange to register yourself because private sector jobs were very few. Now that has exploded, right? Now everybody is in a private sector job, almost, because governments don't hire so much except in certain areas. Despite that, the problem persists because the world is changing, technologies are changing, everything is changing, and so what happens is, despite the private sector having, if you think back to 90s, 80s, and what they were, I had registered in an employment exchange hoping for a call from in 5 years maybe. It used to be like the Bajaj scooters that you registered, and the LPG. So I mean, from that perspective, we have come a long way, right? Things have changed a lot. You don't agree with that?
No, I was just thinking about the fact that yes, things have changed a lot. I think the problems have shifted. I think the single largest profession in the world today is driving. Now already in LA, if you were to call a cab, there's 50% chance that a driverless car will come for you. How many years more will the largest or this source of employment remain? And the implications for that in India. I'm just saying that the problems have shifted, and unfortunately they're becoming more complicated.
Right.
The milk problem was probably easier to fix than probably the long-term employment issue.
Mr. Malik, I look at it slightly differently, and I may be wrong here. The way I look at here is that we are looking at a population of 1.4 billion here. Comparing to the population of a country where there are no population, it's an old, or rather a senior citizenship kind of population. My parents are settled in Canada. I know very well most of the population staying in the area they're staying are above 70. What is happening here is they don't have people to do things. And you're talking about California. You go into the Scandinavian countries, you go to some of those countries where there are no one to do work for them. I think that's where they need someone to do it. And that's what even Mr. Elon Musk made that statement. In our country, maybe the situation will really not come in because we're dealing with a very large population which can continue to do a lot of things where we may not need automate it. I'm not saying it will not happen. First of all, our roads are not prepared for that. Coming point to not on a driverless, but I'm saying on the situation that you're talking and the comparison may not really happen in the foreseeable future for us from a population demographically the way we are situated. That's my view, but maybe...
Look at what is happening for us. We don't have a unemployment issue. Maybe we are having an underemployment issue. The way the quick commerce sector has evolved. 20 years back in ICSA, we started this concept of a DSA revolution. You know, people used to come to the branches. Mr. Kamath drove that agenda of sending people out. And that's how I remember jumping ahead of HDFC.
Doorstep banking.
Exactly. So doorstep banking with people who were not on the rolls, even before the labor laws came in.
You had about 25,000 plus people.
Yeah, and that's the kind of employment we generated. Underemployed. The skills which are very, very basic. Today, the quick commerce world, the amount of last mile delivery, whether it be the logistics, think about it, delivery, all these guys are picking up bigger. Drivers, no matter what, the driverless car, the Uber guy, that the dynamics are continuously changing. In my mind, the labor laws are because of that, a new segment of population which is coming, which is on the other side of the, I wouldn't call it fringe, but they are in that grey area where they can grow off. And these are good signs for me. And even whether it be AI, I'm a hardcore tech guy, but I don't believe AI is going to replace it. Assisted AI, agentic AI, which will help the guy to become much more powerful. Get away from mundane work and do smarter work. Help somebody else do the thinking and deliver it in the last mile. Those are exciting times. And no matter what, I still need milk, I still need food, I need somebody to deliver it. No matter what you do in the digital side, there is a physical world which is going nowhere. So,
Other spectrum, I think one is job creation, the other is skilling. I think jobs are there, at least in our industry. Skilling is where there is a big gap. Like for instance, in dairy itself, we find it so difficult to find veterinarians at the village level. I think there's a gap of some 30% versus the demand.
At the village level?
Yeah, at the village level.
Village level is different by doctors for humans also.
No, but you're looking at people from villages going back to their villages and helping with animal care, right?
Okay.
So there's all about, 54 colleges or something like that, training young people in these skills, and all of them get absorbed by the government institutions, etc. Nothing left for private sector. So we have a bunch of people who are on extension, etc. That help us with the health of animals. So if there's something that the government can do to create jobs at the rural level itself through some of these initiatives which are helpful from an agri standpoint, and agri is very important again because it's the largest contributor to GDP end of the day, and also things that can help them with rural entrepreneurship. I think that'll be like mini dairy farms and subsidizing automation there and helping them with those kinds of things, because it's a fast growing segment. At the end of the day, we're growing some 10% year on year, maybe the fastest growing globally for a significant economy in dairies. So I think that's where there is a big gap, the whole part of skilling versus job creation, at least as I see it in dairy.
And he did make a statement saying on Blinkit, and he retracted on the statement and saying that people are just getting and trying to drive an Uber car or a Blinkit quick commerce and delivering. He feels that is not the right way the FDI should be used in that sense, and more skilling of the laborer should be done. But leaving that point aside, what I wanted to also say from a perspective of, if you look at the FY29 data that the government has proposed, again on hospital.
FY29?
FY29, on the healthcare, 39,000 beds are proposed to be brought into India, and out of that, 30 to 40% beds, hospital beds, are proposed to be in tier 3, 2, 3, 4 and villages. What I'm trying to draw the attention here is that the population and the interest and the action should now start moving in the tier 2, 3 and in the rural areas for them to develop. Otherwise, the tier 1, the metro cities will continue to get populated. The Delhi, Hyderabad and Bombay will get overcrowded. Gurgaon, there is no space to walk also.
Yeah.
And some of those initiatives of skilling laborers there so that they can get consumed there. And when you get consumed there, you need hospital chains there. None of the hospital chains are there. The largest FDI.
None of the hospital chains are where?
In tier 2, tier 3, tier 4.
In tier 2, tier
large
3 cities, really?
Yeah, because if you look at Manipal, Lucknow is coming up, but Lucknow is again going more as a metropolitan. 40% of the FDI that has come into life sciences come into single specialty hospitals.
Yeah, like the eye care hospitals and
correct, but they are all in Delhi, Mumbai or Hyderabad. You have to move to tier 3.
Hyderabad is a big hub for that.
Big hub, very big. But Hyderabad is a big hub.
Especially eyes.
For pharmaceutical. But I just wanted to just...
what do you have to say to this whole issue of, skilling? Especially when you're talking about MSMEs, which is somebody that you represent. Also,
no, I represent all.
You represent everybody, but you did mention MSMEs when you said.
No, I said I think MSME is a part of it because we are around 4,500 members.
Because they are the real job givers, no?
Of course, and large scale also. Both of them. I think we have around 4,500 members consisting of large scale manufacturers and MSME and of course merchant exporters also. Because my mandate is export. Whatever you manufacture, I must see that it should be in the global market.
Yeah,
that kind of.
There is no export problem at this point, right? There are no tariffs on exports of drugs.
Luckily,
only branded drugs or something.
Luckily, I think that threat is still there.
That might also change anyway.
Threat is there. As I said, that unpredictable regulatory systems and all. So both at the domestic and as well as the global scenario. Skilling, as you said, that I think we have around, around 4,000 pharmacy colleges across the country. You just multiply how many of them they'll be coming out of the colleges and all, graduates in the pharmacy. And apart from that, allied sciences, life sciences and all, just put together and all. And as an industry, we are around 10,000 physical units, around 3,000 companies and all in the entire country. So as the statistics says that there are about 2 million job across that one, I think entire value chain, including APIs, formulations, excipients, blah, 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 everything into that one. I think that is the kind of job creations we have. I think the skill set as per is concerned, that's many of them are, as ma'am has already mentioned that the way they have a gap here also, though they have the, what you call the theoretical knowledge and everything, but the moment the industry readiness, that is important. For that, I think probably the Government of India, we have a council also, LSSDC, that is Life Sciences Skill Development Council, which the PharmExcel is also, we are part of it also. And apart from that, there are many associations in the pharma, Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, BDMA, Bulk Drug Manufacturing Associations, and many other institutions. They try to skill it for the graduates coming from the pharmacy colleges and other life sciences colleges and all. So I think I was heartening to see the Honorable Minister Nara Lokeshji saying that skill set, skill development is core to his heart. I think so is that many states and many ministers, they are really working on that. We have around 16 to 17 producing states, what I can say in the entire country, and the rest of all, we can say a consuming kind of a thing. And these states and all, they are really working hard in that sense, and as a PharmExcel also, as a body, under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, we are with them to see that. I think this is very important for us, not only for this country, I think probably the skill sets for the globe also. That is very important for us because I think the entire world is now looking, or rather thinking after pandemic and all, reshoring, localization, and many of those things. In that sense, I think the kind of skill set which required, the kind of the high pressure jobs and all which they require, probably I think India can support that also in that sense.
Right. So Mahesh and Dr. Khan, can you just brief us a little bit about challenges that you face in your industries?
The fundamental problem is the skill set. If you take a gig workers, it's not organized sector. If somebody is lodging job, he can join quickly, but there is no skill-wise training how to be a customer-oriented, right? So we see once in a while some of the problems are happening in the sector, because the sector is very big sector, last mile delivery, and that sector, if you take anything, other sectors also which are into energy businesses, right? Energy, see even for EVs and all, if you see the EV penetration happening very big way, but however, the fundamental problem is from ITIs to diplomas to the BTECs, there is no skill set that relevant to the what technology it is coming up, right? So, and also it's not about just skill set and equivalent job creation. The other problem is like people talk, but they won't walk to the talk, right? That's one of the problem, and all these things again are related to the infrastructure. So, and if you don't have proper infrastructure, if you don't have a proper technology adoption, and the unemployment, we are telling, even yesterday I met a driver, is a BTech pass out and he want to drive. I said, what's going on with you? And I mentored him and connected some dot to get a job for him. But nevertheless, the industry that should come, and also the skill set gap with the technology adaptation is happening at very fast level. There's a big challenge is going on in terms of
what is the challenge in your own business? Like for you are in energy storage, right?
Yeah.
So that way you and Harsha are more or less in this similar kind of work. You are also facing supply chain challenges you're supposed to.
Yeah, supply chain challenges.
What about
is
people?
there.
Like you're talking about skills. What about skills related to your kind of work?
Yeah, so if you take about the material science to the next generation chemistries and everything, there's a big skills, those kind of resources are not at all available in India, right? And also these skills require a huge space, like very, very top paid skilled resources. But when I started, I literally calling the people in Israel, Japan, Korea and Europe and come back and join the company and all these things, giving a lot of incentives and everything. But the matter of the fact is that again, it again is boiled to the access of the capital, to the skills, because if you see the high paid skills, they're not staying in India, they're moving out.
Yeah.
So again, if you come to the low paid skills, they're not organized. And also especially these low paid skills, the biggest threat is the discipline. If you look at the other countries, they are very disciplined people, and the trustworthiness and accountability is very big. That will come from the education, from the lower education only. So we are just focusing on science, math and all these things, but how to handle a customer and how to get things done in a most accountability and trustworthiness. These things we fundamentally miss in our education system only. So back in China and few other countries, these are there from the kindergarten to from the schooling level as well. At the same time, if you see the AI evolution is coming up using all the chat GPTs and everything. I'm talking to one of my colleagues from Europe and China, and every 6 months the government is sponsoring for upgradation of the skills. It's a free thing they are doing it. But in India we tell, but we won't do it, and we don't walk to the talk. There are fundamental changes, and these changes will be rectified when we have a proper and right educated people in the system and everywhere, right? So unfortunately, that's a very
loaded statement.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So eventually, you are seeing better people now, right? Compared to the 10 years back, what we
of
have.
Course, yeah.
They're educated and they know what's going in globally, because the same person we sit at the global forum, they can't talk. That's a fundamental problem, right?
Dr. Khan, what problems are you facing?
Yeah, so actually for us, skill is not at all a problem, because we groom our employees from colleges itself.
What kind of colleges do you have?
Yeah, so almost, so far we have 3,000 plus employees in 11 cities in India. So almost all the colleges we go for internship and we take them and we groom and we can send back. So yeah, as a group company, we have like 36 brands under EPG group, and we are into 14 segments. So yeah, we need all across, from technology to food and innovation and so on. So we go to all colleges, like management colleges and engineering colleges.
So skill is not a problem for you?
Skill is not a problem, because we groom candidates there itself, because we always feel that they are so raw. So we give our curriculum to HOD, to the college, to train them. so that when we get back, so we have very quality people. So that is when actually we crack this hyper-realistic growth model at EBG Group.
Okay,
that is one.
So what challenge do you face?
Yeah, exactly. So the challenge right now is awareness because as I said so far, we are changing the consumer behavior. For example, let's take as a milk consumption. Instead of milk consumption, we can tell them to have some alternative vegan milk. So why that is so important? Right now, if you see, methane is 22 times faster than the carbon emission. So when I say 22 times faster than the carbon emission, it's disrupt the world very fast. So if you see the northern Siberia, its ice ball is melting now, which again produce like very high volume of methane, which will definitely disrupt the ozone. So if somebody stop having milk, instead of having milk, if they have any alternate milk, so that is when the magic happens, right? So they get to know that, yeah, so stopping milk also stopping methane. That is what I used to say about sustainability. To create that awareness right now, it's very important for us. Even people are, again, bending, when I'm saying bending from the evolution, we started from orangutan, right now we're bending in front of mobile phone. So we have very less tolerance in terms of, attention. So you have only 2.4 second attention span. So in that attention, even we go into the mobile phone, we have to create a shockwave content to tell them, hey, look, actually you have to stop my reel, to scroll, to stop. So you read it. So to do so, we have to onboard the celebrities. We are on board almost 28 celebrities so far to do the scroll stopper to explain what is common sense. So that is the greatest challenge for us.
Just one thing here. Sir, what do you do with all the cows then?
No, what I'm saying is it's not related to cow. So what I'm saying is,
what do you do about affordable nutrition? Dairy is considered the most affordable, holistic, approachable, available nutrition, not just at the urban level, but also at the village level.
No. Ma'am,
so
I'm talking
quite
about not only the milk.
Interested in the example that you had taken, that, to stop methane emissions, etc.
No,
we need to educate
for the
people
livestock
to
I'm talking about, not about milk. I'm talking about all globe, not only India. So what I'm saying is creating awareness is the greatest challenge in this 2025 is what I want to say.
Sir, cars also give out methane, sir.
Of course, ma'am. What I'm saying is everything is
I'm
giving
just talking
carbon
about the
emission.
specific example you have taken. I would love to understand more which point of view you're coming from.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is...
Is it from a consumer standpoint? Is it from an animal standpoint?
No, it's not animal standpoint. So I'm talking about more into consumer standpoint. If you create awareness, for example, we are spending huge money to say some mutual fund sahi hai kind of awareness, where we have to say something for sustainability is what I'm saying. It's all about. It's not, but specifically your business. I'm so sorry. So if I am specifically telling about your business, so what I am saying is, if we change consumer behavior in terms of telling the truth of sustainability, it will help people to understand better, to build a better globe is what I want to say.
We have an audience question, I think. But before that, I had also heard that Australian cows are supposed to be responsible for the hole in the ozone layer in the south. Is that true or not?
To a certain extent, but humans are also. Cars are also. So who isn't? I have a point though on the skilling standpoint. I think there was a beautiful example given by Mr. Mahesh and I think and by Mr. Irfan as well, right? About collaboration between institutions as well as private sector companies or other companies, and I think that's what we've been always looking forward to doing as Heritage Foods, as a dairy industry. It's just that we don't have as many colleges. We're more than happy to go out to colleges to upgrade curricula to make them more relevant for today's needs of what's required at the village level for the health care of the animal, reproductive health of the animal, productivity of the animal. Simply the point that we have vaccines to proactively prevent diseases, but we don't have people to administer them.
What kind of colleges would you go to?
So we would go to dairy sciences colleges, we would go to veterinary colleges. As I said, we don't have hundreds of thousands of them. We only have 54 or 55 of them across the country. Yeah. Not just that, we are happy to offer on-the-job training. It's good for them. It's good for the companies as well. And also we're happy to offer stipends and absorb them post their diploma program or graduation. So I think the biggest bottleneck for us is the lack of availability of establishments for what we're looking for.
Even to provide you with the raw material that you can shape.
Absolutely.
And we have a question from the audience.
I just take the cue from what ma'am has said about the curriculum. I think that is where probably upstream and all, we would like to see that the curriculum must be revamped in the pharma education and all those things, because B.Pharm means you read everything, right, from everything, I think food, ecology, whatnot, everything will. But if you see the engineering part of it, the moment you join, I think if this is mechanical, he's in electrical, electronics, there is a very core verticals are there already in that. I think probably in the pharmacy also, which I think probably that is where we would like to see that if a student joins there, let him think of whether he is going to the pharmaceutical technology, is it analytical technology, into the R&D, or some of those clinical aspects of it. Let it be core things, and also that by the time he ends up his one, then these kind of things, the skilling mechanism, the bridge gapping, and all those things will come down. I think that is where we thought of having a curriculum changes in that way. One of those things and all.
Oh, just on a lighter note, I know I was waiting for a question. Reminds me of this example where how did Ford get into automobiles in a big way? Because New York was full of these horse-drawn carts, and all the shit they put out created huge issues. So suddenly everybody started buying cars, and now we are back to full cycle. So
I have a very interesting anecdote. You were talking about methane from the dairy industry.
I'll first correct my question. So my answer is not from dairy industry.
Okay.
What I'm saying is methane. I'm not saying it's coming from dairy.
Okay.
That's okay.
I'm saying wherever it is coming from.
Addressing methane.
It's just about addressing.
He is asking what is the challenge. I said creating awareness is a challenge.
I hear you. I think the point I'm trying to make is a very interesting one, where these problems can become an opportunity. And I think Heritage is a great example of that. The methane from all the dairy effluent at the Bengaluru plant, I know because my company does it for them. I'll set up the plant for them, and is converted into cooking gas. The entire food preparation is happening from a source of energy that potentially could have become a pollutant at some point in time. And that is what the opportunity of circularity is all about. A pollutant, even including carbon, is actually a resource. It happens to be the wrong time, in the wrong place, in the wrong quantity. But it's a resource nonetheless. And therefore, the opportunity associated with all of these emissions, all of these wastes, all of these challenges is also equally humongous. And especially for a country like India. We are talking about supply chain risks. We forget that these mountains of plastics that we talk about are essentially crude oil. The same crude oil that we import, at great foreign currency and sometimes great geopolitical cost. It's actually crude oil. But it ends up in these huge landfills, etc., etc. Tremendous opportunity there. And I think that is where there is, just by employing some of those thought processes, which today, unfortunately, only very progressive companies are doing, like Heritage. I think...
well said. So that's exactly I'm saying. When they are doing this and they are benchmarked everything, they are not alone is what I'm saying. So there are so many companies are producing milks and other things. We have to create awareness for them to do the same thing what they're doing. Okay. Because we don't know, right? So when we are seeing things, so this is what happening. When they are addressing the core problem, that needs to be come out, is what I'm saying.
That's it's like a zero discharge. I think as a kid I have seen Andhra Sugars. Nothing comes out of other than a product.
And again, we're working with Resustainability on another project in Hyderabad itself for the same. So thanks for your support.
I'll talk about the skilling opportunity here. We were able to create maybe 25,000 new jobs in the last 5 years in the circularity space. And everyone sort of steps back and says, oh, you did a great job. You've become a successful organization. You've done this or that. But the fact is that this sector alone, which is prevent a waste from becoming a waste, or once it has become a waste, figure out a way of creating a material from it, or a fuel from it, or energy from it. This space potentially is 12 to 15 million jobs. So I actually look at ourselves and I say, we are not even scratching the surface, we are failures actually at tapping the potential of this, both from an economic standpoint and from a social standpoint.
Right.
So yes, in every challenge, in every sector, I think there is the seed of the opportunity as well. And probably I thank Mr. Trump. I thank Mr. Trump, and I thank because I genuinely believe that what we are seeing today is the beginning of something which is fundamentally going to reshape how we produce, how we consume, and how we therefore recycle. And that is because of these supply chain disruptions, because of the problems around imports. I would say actually step back and someday say thank you.
Okay.
I think that's a very interesting point, because I think from our company standpoint as well, having mentioned that supply chain disruptions have been a huge problem for decades globally, we had realized that a couple of years back, and we said, we've got to do something about it. So what did we do about it? We went back to our supply chain, our sourcing, and we said, we have to diversify in terms of the number of states where we're present. So now it's not as difficult as crop agriculture, because it's a very scalable model, and now we're in 19 different states procuring milk from different states, and hence we've hedged that risk a little bit. On the market side, what else have we done? We've said that we need to deseasonalize ourselves, so we need to create more functional products. So we've gotten into probiotic buttermilk, traditional products, but functional in nature, right? We've gotten into paneer and increasing the number of occasions of consumption of paneer, especially in South Indian markets where the consumption is lower than other markets, right? So we've proactively done a couple of things, and I think in every challenge there is an opportunity to grow and be better. But I think as a system, as a country, globally, we'll have to be much more ready for these disruptions that are only going to happen more.
You know how difficult it is to come into a discussion like this. His name is also Harsha. He's a partner with JSA, and he has a question.
Yeah, I have more of a question, comment kind of a thing.
Okay, don't make it too long.
Yes. I just think that all of these things are interconnected with the education system that we have. Like in terms of developing a skill set, right? Because I remember back in the day when Mr. Chandrababu Naidu had gone to all these companies and bought them the investment into Hyderabad, there were only 6-7 colleges that were graduating engineers. And now he's opened pathway for all the engineering colleges to come and set up their shop here so that they can, produce engineers. Whether they are skilled or not, that's a different question, which we have to deal at a different stage, which I think the sir has addressed in terms of giving internships and things like that. But broadly, what I want to say is the education system has to change. It has to revamp in such a way, and I think only the private sector can, tell the government in terms of, hey, you have to change the system. I think. Even in terms of, we've talked about BSNL, we've talked about milk not being available, and all of this because of all these changes that we've seen that happen is because of private sector has come into this picture because of this liberalization, globalization, privatization that has happened. Yeah. So I just think the government needs to do a step back and allow private individuals to take forward. I just throwing a question here is broadly, see, why would people want to, like everyone is going to Switzerland to, let's say, we talk about Switzerland, black money and all of that. My question is, why would people want to go to Switzerland to invest their money? Why would I not invest the money here? Like, what is stopping me? That's
the black money that they are putting away just to...
No, but again, what is the incentive that I have to invest here in India? You've literally, taxed me in such a way that I don't want to invest here. See, everyone loves money. Let's agree on that.
Of course.
Everyone loves money. So we need to create a system where money is allowed to
stay with us.
Yeah.
But seriously,
allocation, you can give him the survey. You can give him the survey and he can fill it up.
You should take the survey. But the thing also is that are we really that heavily taxed? Because as far as I know, Even the UK has taxes comparable to ours. Most of the developing countries, Germany has taxes comparable to ours. And I went to Switzerland, by the way, last year, and the cows were really beautiful there. And they have bells around their necks.
But there so, again, they give at least the government gives them sometimes.
In Switzerland, and you're going past a herd of cows, you can hear the jangles of the bells like music. And there's a lot of smell of their shit also, by the way. You're going on this, let's say, what do we call that? The ropeway.
Yeah,
the cows, nice, lovely smell will reach the ropeway cable and get through to you. But the point is that Switzerland, really nobody invests money there. I mean, people go to save their skins and all. But are we that heavily taxed? But you see, the point that I'm trying to say, and by the way, my son is also one of the engineers here in Andhra Pradesh, and he's studying. But the points that we are discussing here are all timeless kind of issues, right? We've been seeing them forever. What is the solution?
No, so
to your point on this plastic, Madhi, I'll come to you. For example, I had heard of, in one of these discussions only, somebody has said that there is technology available from a startup that can reduce this plastic to convert it to energy, which we all know it can be converted to energy, but an entire mountain of landfill can be reduced completely in like a few months. 2-3 months, the whole thing is gone and converted to energy. The point is that of scale. We have the solutions. You have the solutions of managing the cows and the methane. And who's using your cooking gas?
We use it within our facility itself.
Within your facility.
Factory.
So for your factory, for your employees, you're making food for that. Why is that not scaled? Anything that we do, why is it only restricted to a heritage like Dr. Khan is saying?
So no, I'll give you one example.
So I'll come to you, but Madhi had something to say.
No, so I was responding to him as well as to you for the specific point that you made. I would not put the blame on the government. If you were to look at some of the success stories over the last 1 decade, what is it that leading players, whether it be Heritage, whether it be Apollo, people who are driving the initiative in the respective categories, how is it that they are in a position to work with the government on a public-private partnership model to actually create an ecosystem that becomes virtuous? Yeah. Let me illustrate it with healthcare. Apollo, no matter what it does, we are the market leaders. We only have 8% market share, by the way. 70 hospitals, very high-end tertiary, 2,000 clinics, more diagnostic centers, but 8% market share. Pharmacy, 7,000 outlets, we are the largest players, 5% market share. In a fragmented market where healthcare will never go out of demand, 20% growth, if you need to make a change, and if you say, okay, let the government come and open up 39,000 more beds, and that will take care of it. No. We have a Meenakshi hospital in Madurai, you will have an Apollo in Madurai, you will have an Apollo in Chennai. Still, the traffic flows into Apollo Chennai. Because there is this huge bit of it, it's a multiplicity issue. Hospitals are an infrastructure business. Pharmacy is an infrastructure business. Even the digital layer which you are putting on top of it is infrastructure. Now, if you want to bring an ecosystem play, how do you get the millions of the doctors into this ecosystem? Each one of them is running his points independently. 7,000 outlets, 5% market share, there are what? 1 million odd mom and pop pharmacy stores which are running their own. That is huge scale waiting to happen. Tech has not been exploited. Take the example of the entire financial services industry. Yeah. When Nandan and team built the entire digital stack, today it's become a point of leverage. Talk about agri-tech. Nowhere there. How do I bring in education which is able to bring more veterinaries? Nobody is going to go to the village and spend their entire life there. How do I create a leverage wherein I can sit anywhere but make it viable for them? How do I bring doctors into this ecosystem so that each of the skills can, and today in the digital world, whether it be AI, whether it be some of these platforms, the leverage is available. So can we as an ecosystem come together, even within our respective categories, and build these leverages? E-commerce is cutting across beautifully. I mean, I could sell 24 Mantra, at the same time I'll be sending a high-end Monjaro for an obesity clinic. How do I bring these stories into the picture? And after all this, you're still servicing only 30 million people. Yeah. There is this huge pyramid which is still taken for other. So let's leave the government alone. Let's find out what is it that private can do by building infrastructure which can do it.
Yeah.
I'm not even getting into the
problem there
sustainability
is
world,
that the issue is of profitability, right? Businesses are there to make a profit, and the other angle which requires a lot of collaboration. When you are doing it for your facility, you are doing it for your business, but how do you make it not just an Apollo thing, but talk to Fortis, talk to others, and talk to the mom and pop stores.
Ayushman Bharat, it's supposed to be an ecosystem builder. It's not going anywhere.
That's the thing.
There is a lot of insane opportunities on the waste to wealth creation. When I was in Korea, South Korea, we see 6 color bins, right? But the discipline is there to where to put what, so that the segregation
6 bins.
6 bins, 6 colors, okay, everywhere.
Okay.
And also the other good thing what I see is after 9 p.m. there is no restaurants open, and there is no buffet system there. So I mean, some of the fundamental things which we need to adopt to especially generating waste to wealth. When I was in US, there is like a waste management company, and it's a $1 billion company. But I want to see RE Sustainable like a $1 billion company, right? How it's going to happen? It's all about discipline on how we are going to segregate this waste. There are a number of jobs can be created. Again, the skills for waste to wealth creation. Is there an MBA degree on the waste to wealth creation in India? No, right? So there are a lot of opportunities are there, but somehow we are like deviating for many other issues which we don't need to be there. Yeah.
I think Telangana is looking for a skill university.
Yeah.
When we invested $1 billion, it was I think 6 years ago in this space, I think most of the analysts called us mad. But I think we've sort of proven them wrong. And that is a testament to the fact that if you're stubborn enough, then things change and viability sort of follows you. I think the problem to why those mountains are still there and why my industry, why is there only one in our space? Yeah. The number 2 player, we are now probably the largest in Asia, but the number 2 player in India is probably a 10th of our size. So it is not. I wish it was, there were 100 companies like us doing this, because that is what is required to bring those mountains down. And the only reason why that's not coming down, and the one challenge that is holding back the circularity or the sustainability space in India is enforcement. We don't need any more regulations.
But that's the case even if
any more regulations.
Look at life sciences,
enforcement,
it's the same thing.
You will cut down enforcement.
No, there is no enforcement.
There should be enforcement.
There should be, okay.
There should be enforcement. There are too many regulations that are only on paper. I believe that even with every 10% more enforcement, the size of the industry will practically double. Because we are at such low levels of enforcement right now that in Delhi you have the Ghazipurs and the Balaswas refusing to come down. You know, it's supposed to have disappeared 3 or 4 times by now. But it's not disappearing, correct? So there are fundamental issues, but all of them can be summarized in the enforcement angle. That's the one ask that we have of government, which is to not do anything, not make more regulations. We don't want fiscal benefits. We don't want GST cuts. We don't want VGF. We just want enforcement. We will create the market. We will create the viability.
Just implement the regulation.
Just implement the regulations.
With the discipline.
And create a level playing field so that every company learns from heritage, learns from Amar Raja, learns from the established good corporate behavior baseline. That becomes the national baseline.
Siddharth?
The good thing is, when I started as a lawyer 25 years back, you wouldn't see many companies like Heritage or Amar Raja or RE doing the corporate governance what they do today. So the good thing is companies, because we live in private equity investments, we do M&A all the time, the corporate governance standards have gone, thresholds have really gone up. So that's encouraging. Enforceability when it comes to medical science and life sciences, we've been recommending fast track courts. We've been saying instead of the consumer courts, instead of the civil laws and the criminal laws, there should be fast track courts so that enforceability is a live thing rather than people waiting for 25 years for results to come in. I think I completely agree with that. But coming back to the main issue, see, we've been talking a lot about supply chains and what can be done, but there are regulatory things that the government has done, and I support the government in what they're doing. Now, I have a few points. Like they have the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework Supply Chain Agreement, again from a medical science. 14 countries are signatory to it. We are vice chair to that. These are again for supply chain clues and to build up on the supply chain. Taking the point what was being said on Ayushman, that's a live thing on digital interface. It is a digital technology which is trying to create health records for the nationals, Indian nationals, which can help in data protection, which can be used for health records and for other purposes. Then we have the supply chain resilience initiative which has been done. This is between Japan, Australia and India, again on reduced reliance on single countries. Now there have been national logistics policies which have been done. And over and above, which everybody knows about it, because these are very healthcare centric, so I'm not going too much into it, but production linked schemes. Now these are primarily being done for domestic enhancement of production, right? So to say that the government is not doing, I think it'd be a little bit on the unfair side. The government is doing, the population is large. Enforceability is a big issue. I think that's where the government should work on. The PLI scheme is a reality. PLI schemes have been initiated. The finance minister has been doing it. Funds have been given. Now, it's not like the CGHS, which has been written in the GDP, which has been given as part of your budget plan every year, but the hospital chains are not getting that money. PLI schemes have been live. They have actually got the money.
So now that the PLI has brought into discussion, as we all know that I think the the important thing is to see that like food security for this country. I think probably we had thought of the drug security for this country, especially after pandemic when we thought that we are importing many of those products which are required by us. But I think it's not that the product, I think probably the N-1, I think you have to go upstream. Those kind of the key starting raw materials also requires a sort of a incentive schemes to see that the entire supply chain, entire value chain, rather will be built here, or rather produced here, so that we will be not depending, we have a self-reliance, whatever the kind of ambitious goals we have by 2047 kind of a thing. So that is one part of it. Certainly that PLI should be more added, more number of molecules as well as the key starting materials. That should be the way. Yeah. And I think above all these things, I think probably when these are being incentivized, when the products are coming from our neighbor, where the cost of things will be reduced, then there should be MIP, minimum import price kind of a thing, which has to be brought in kind of a thing, so that these companies can sustain the kind of a price, because they have already built, they are at a scale which the government thought that this kind of a production will sustain us, will be having a drug security for us.
No, so my question was that, not that whether you apply to PLI or not, but the point is that there is an incentive which companies have applied for, they have been selected, they have not taken advantage of it, they have not built the facilities. What is holding it back? Is it again with the supply chain issue?
So I would say, see, one could be supply chain and demand also. A PLI, at least ACC PLI, there's a penalty also for not reaching those production volumes.
Yeah.
And when you don't have these two things in your control, that's a huge liability. But either which way, many people have decided to start building their ecosystems themselves. So in a case where you don't have this kind of policy support, it's about, not just about making investments. I think we were talking about, private capex earlier. It's a huge investment compared to what we made before, but when the ecosystem doesn't exist here, neither do the skills and the talent, right? So the investments in talent actually have to be front-loaded, whether it's the R&D talent or bringing in the attracting and bringing in the expats and NRIs who have done this in the more established EV markets, for example. For example, people simply need a really good reason to come to India or back to India. How we've been managing to do that is we've established an R&D facility coming up in Shamshabad, close to the airport, where we can attract, create an ecosystem for this talent. And we know that we'll have them for maybe 2 years, 3 years, but really impart that, then internalize that, and thus starts your domestic talent development.
Yeah. But the real challenge is on the ground, right? So
it's on the ground.
There are certain...
Yeah, but 21,000 crore till July 31st to 25 has been the disbursement under the PLI scheme. 21,000.
Which PLI?
No, this is... you can take it for pharmaceutical and bulk drugs. It could be for LEDs. It has been for dairy products. Well, it's not been that much for dairy products.
Very little. Minuscule for dairy.
Minuscule. It's around 400, 500 crores. I'm not saying, that's what I said, I'm not saying it's been the most successful scheme, but the government has started dispersing and it has been doing it. It is a scheme.
Of course.
So I just wanted to stress
PLI,
the fact
the
because
concept of PLI I find is very interesting and very different and better.
But yes,
better
but
than
what Harsha just
incentivizing
said,
production. That you are incentivizing sales. That
yeah,
you
but if
reach
you
a certain
cross that
target
level,
then you get the incentive.
Exactly, Alokesh. But if you cross that level, Harsha is right. Then it's a bit of a catch-22.
It is. It is. India used to make rare earth magnets many years ago. They stopped it. China went ahead and developed, and now they are blackmailing everybody in the world, including USA. Right? So
no, that's what I meant. That's the kind of a threat, in fact, from China. The kind of predating pricing.
Yeah.
The moment you say that this is the price at which we produce our market, they will try to reduce it through their own channels and all.
Yeah. So I was under the impression that India doesn't have rare earth, but the fact is that we have a lot of rare earth, right?
No,
we don't have rare earth.
We have a lot of rare earths, but I'm talking.
We cannot convert it into magnets, is my understanding.
No. The problem is the scale of economics and the technology that are required to convert at scale, right? So that's the biggest problem, because see, 5 years back only we discovered we have enough lithium in India, but what happened like 15 years back, what China was doing 15 years back, right? The fundamental problem is the kinds of tools and technologies we use to identify the rare earths are done by government, and the government don't have enough kind of tools to do that one. So how the geologists perform all these rare earths and material analysis, right? And they don't have for them to get one tool, they need to go different layers of approval. So these kind of things need to be changed when the global economy is shifting towards supply chain issues, right? It should be accelerated program, and getting a good instrument or people to identify these rare earths should be done in a most fastest way. And these are the challenges which you are facing, not only one industry, it's multiple industry. I'll tell about one, especially in the dairy industry. Insemination is a big problem, right? So how we are going to tackle those kind of issues, right? So lot of things are coming in everywhere, in every organization, but it should be done. We need to prepare like what's going to come in next 10 years, 15 years. We should build now rather than waiting somebody else building for us. Yeah.
Nutrition, I think, to animals is also a very big problem for us. I think nutrition as well as breeds, given that it's such an important sector, but at the same time, the productivity of the Indian animal is probably 1/3 of what you see in Europe or in the US. So what we do as a company is, conception rates in general are very low. They're at as low as 35% in India. So through our efforts, we've been able to successfully increase that to 42%. And we bear 50% of the cost. We subsidize it to the farmer. Just imagine if a government agency was able to contribute towards some part of the cost of the farmer. I think that would have a significant impact because these are all chromosomes sorted. There's a lot of science behind it. Not only will the conception rates improve, but also the quality of the breed, the productivity of the animal, the resilience and immunity of the animal. So there's a lot we can do with government support. Aside from that, I think balanced feed consumption is a big area of improvement for us, which is where we would also want to seek some awareness building support and maybe subsidy support from the government. So estimates say that about 400 grams of balanced feed per liter of milk from a cow is required, whereas in India it's anywhere between 50 to 200 grams. So the highest itself is so low, it is at 200 grams per liter versus the bare minimum requirement of 400 grams, right? Of course, as a company we have our own unit, we make subsidized cattle feed available to farmers at more frequent intervals using our existing logistics, so it's cost efficient for them as well. But this requires a more concerted effort to improve productivities at the farm level. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work that we could do with the government while supporting the government, not just expecting everything from them.
Okay, I think going back to the larger sort of topic of, we started off with Trump issues and de-risking and so on. And B, state of the Indian economy and what is the way forward. I think one of the, let's say, at least my personal observation or personal way of looking at it is, if you look at, multiple categories, food, non-food, automotives, everything, right? And clearly dairy is an exception. A lot of work started by NDDB many, many years ago has laid a foundation for certain changes. Some other sectors we are moving. But you look at overall, let's say we allow conflicts to come from the US to India and because these companies, I work for multinationals all my life, so I'm not saying I'm an exception. But that's what we've been doing, even BYD cars to India. Look at any sector except pharma and large extent dairy now, right? I mean, I was in poultry sector too for Godrej, right? And there's huge worry for us that if the government opens up, the entire poultry sector in India will collapse because it will be flooded by US and other countries, right? So the holistic, in the sense what I find very frustrating is, really in terms of overall demand, supply, working to build a larger ecosystem, to build, and I would say the whole issue for me is of trust. So, why are we not able to take stuff out of India to some other countries? Why are we not able to build, things at scale where everybody trusts, everything, right? Even garments we make for other brands. We literally don't have a single brand from India which is able to globally create a market. And the brands which we are buying here are markets from pockets where there is no cotton, there is no, these guys just create a brand. And we have issues with cotton. We have, a lot of things happening on cotton, but we don't have brands. So the whole, gamut, to my mind, is really about, over the decades, kind of, looking at low cost, low, whatever, value propositions and things like that. And that's kind of holding us back. And somewhere, unless that changes, and I go back to my point on income disparity and things like that, I think rural, urban, a lot of companies talk about rural supporting growth and suddenly rural not supporting growth. Because this will happen every second year. Because we are not building either a demand side of this or a supply side of this to scale. So either within the country there is consumption of products and services of certain quality, therefore everybody in the ecosystem starts benefiting from that. Or we are creating something surplus. We talked about mangoes. 1989 onwards, nothing happens. You can't do it. That's it. We are the largest producer. Everybody says everything, but nothing happens. So, end of the day, and conversations with the government or otherwise, it's about putting all these things together. And long back, I was talking to somebody who was doing a lot of the government thinking for roads and infrastructure. And he says, it takes us 5 years to make a proposal, the government takes 5 years to clear the proposal, by the time we are 10 years out. Yeah. Right? If you see, a lot of these places, that's what happens, right? So it's that building all this together, and as a world's third largest economy, whatever we want to be, we are just going to, not be able to dominate anything. We're not going to be a power in any particular thing. And for me, that's like, if that starts happening now, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you could be the second, third largest economy at 100 trillion or whatever. But then, you'll still be at mercy of the global pulls and pressures, right?
That is such a telling comment, because even if we think about it, India is more or less a supplier to everything. Is the world supplier to everything, supplier of skills, supplier of low-cost skills, where you think of the IT services companies, or even AI, the really hard-hitting top-level AI is not done in India, right? Whatever AI is hired in India is the lower-level, kind of prompt engineers kind of thing. But really, Madhi will know better than me, but that is my understanding. But even in pharmaceuticals, Dr. Anji Reddy started off Dr. Reddy's with the vision of making innovative drugs. Everybody tried innovative drugs in India, from Glenmark to, but everything turned out to be out-licensed, right? You really didn't build an innovator brand the way a Pfizer or a Novo or something. Just now we had that Novo Nordisk, Dr. Reddy's, fight, right, over semaglutide and the weight loss drug, which Reddy's won, so in the court. But the fact is that what is lacking? You are all titans of your own industries, you're doing a lot of good work, you're making profits, you're enabling good things with your people, right? You're creating, chemical-free food. We are all doing everything, but India is still, even in pharma, like I missed that point, is that we do a lot of contract manufacturing, right? No innovation. I think Glenn Saldana tried his level best to create certain drugs, but I think the money was beyond him or something.
That's what I said. I think probably my opening comments was that something which runs the world, runs is also the finance and all. I think probably the VCs and all, I think they should be I think probably we should start to create, if I may say that, how the VCs can be pulled in, how they can be roped in into kind of a research and all. If you can see the UK models and all, the industry institution sort of a association kind of a thing, lot of research being done in the kind of universities and all, and the industry try to finance those things and all, and try to catch it early. Try to pick it up early, and the kind of molecules which they want to look in, the kind of research and all, because a high cost with respect to clinical trials, human clinical trials and all
but
these
why
things.
would a VC invest in a research of a molecule, and when you know that 1 out of 10, I mean 1 out of 100 probably succeeds?
There should be an exit mechanism also. I mean, there should be an exit mechanism. I think these are the things which I think probably with the AI, the digital twins and all, with the AI and ML, which we are talking so high about it, probably they will help us expedite this kind of a process, how to get into those kind of channels, the pipelines and all, where we can, at some point in time, we can understand that kind of things, how it will really shape it up, the kind of, I think we have missed it. I think March 2020, if you can see that the world got shut. But I think if you all can appreciate that, by coming Feb 2021, we had our first vaccine dose.
Yes.
So I think that's the kind of a thing which it really compelled us to go with that one.
But that was also in partnership with the UK company.
Sure, but I think it requires the kind of a partnership. Partnership means it could be science-based, it could be finance-based, all those things it requires and all. We have a huge potential in that sense.
It was a government laboratory that has done it.
So,
in partnership with
Biotech and all, which they have done and all. So I think these are some of the things.
Indigenous one also. We had our indigenous one.
Indigenous one also.
Indigenous, this one.
From Ella.
So now, as a generic space, I think as a country we are coming to a plateau stage and all. We have already over these 6 decades, you talking about Anji Reddy Garu, from whatever he came from IDPL and tried to do the best of the things and all. So is the case, other companies also followed and all. In these 6 decades to the globe, we have already, I think, made our things very clear that we are tried, we got tested, and also we are trusted now. To that level we have come. Now we can't lose that kind of an opportunity to better ourselves into the innovation space also. And the biosimilars, I think biologicals, and the complex generics, there's a huge space, around 640 billion opportunities coming up, and I think that is where probably I think the finances and FDAs should come and all.
My name is Dr. Gautam Bhattacharya. I'm a partner at KNS, an intellectual property law firm, sister concern of JSA, because we have a common founder, Jyoti Sagar. So
you're a doctor?
Yeah, I did my PhD postdoc and then did my law. Coming back to what, I would like to take you from where we started, the challenges. And I think the solution, according to me, lies in the challenges. And I'll come back to the education. In going back to, I think 1700 AD, where we had about 37 to 40% of the global GDP, and look at the kind of education we had. And if you want to destroy a society, disrupt a society, you need to disrupt the education. And look at the younger generation, 65% of the population is below 35 years. And we do not have our own mind. We are influenced by most of the minds of others. So we need to create an education system which can inculcate innovation, creativity, thinking of our own self, then possibly we would be able to, unless we are aware of our own need, we cannot compel neither the government, nor the private sector, nor anyone to do something for us. So the younger generation or the students, the entire education system needs to be revamped, which probably you have, some of us have discussed. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, see, the problem is with my view is that if, like you're saying, we will probably be in the top 3 of the world's global economies and the only economy with no innovator brand to speak of in any industry. No global scale brand, and we are still the 3rd biggest economy in the world.
We have a lot of process innovation, but I think...
Exactly. We have a lot of process innovation, we have TCS and Infosys, but they are not innovators, right? They provide a service. We all provide services. Pharma provides service through contract manufacturing, through generic medicines, which are copycats of the patents, which are of huge benefit to the people who cannot afford the patented prices of the products. But I think what we lack is the innovation mindset, and that probably comes back to the education thing. But if we have to solve all of this, if we have to be a global economy that is proud to be a global economy and flashing several brands, I mean, how many people have heard of Rafale before we brought the aeroplanes, right? But we have had Dassault Aviation and Dassault Systems in India for a very long time, and Dassault also came out to our conversation, one of our conversations. The thing is that the French, they have so many brands. Probably we are bigger than France now in terms of GDP.
Yes.
But the French have many more brands. I mean, they have brands, we have none, right? We are only growing in size. Now I want to tap all of you to ask, give a suggestion to the government how we can bring about, it's maybe a little bit of blue sky thinking, merge it with reality and say from your industry perspective, economy perspective, how can we bring a mindset of innovation in our country? I'll tell you, I had done an innovation contest, right, in one of my earlier jobs. Some of the largest companies of India participated. There was no innovation worth showcasing. I mean, I went through all the applications myself, from automotive to every industry. There was nothing. Screw quarter inch kam kar diya. Maybe that's a tweak. It's not an innovation. It's a tweak that improves your process. It's process engineering, right? But innovation is what Elon Musk is about, right? Is what the big brands are about. How can we do that? It's not worth the income disparity that you started with, Bala. You also spoke of income disparity. How is that going to ever be resolved? How are all these issues ever going to be resolved if we are not innovative enough to design our own thing? How can we do it? Suggestions?
Yeah, I think we already have a notable startup ecosystem, but it's nowhere rivaling some of the developed nations, like you mentioned France. I think we've taken the government has taken some steps to support startup founders in terms of easier financing, but the thing that's really missing is the link to corporates. If we can start using some of the ideas coming out of these startups to solve some of the larger industry issues that corporates are struggling with, whether it's around material science, the simulations, many of the things already set around this table. I think that ecosystem has to be extended. There's startups, there's government, there's the private sector, and we have to align that with what the country needs. I think each of those pieces will help us build that competitiveness, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it's what must be done.
So look, actually, we have done a proof of concept at our company, which is called EBG Labs. It started in 2017. For example, we produce, in the world, we produce 360 crore toothbrush every month. So it got consumed, and again, it's going to toothbrush. Maybe you are also using one.
360 crore toothbrush?
Yeah, worldwide.
Okay. My God.
So it got used, every home. Nobody is coming, as you said, like doing innovation or R&D to replace the toothbrush, maybe a plastic bottle. So what happens is right now, as you rightly said, Elon Musk is giving a better alternate. It's not substitute. So what we are trying is like putting this, glass bottle as a substitute of a plastic bottle, which can't be a substitute. So hence actually in the proof of concept what we find, we are identifying absolute pain point, like education, what is the alternate education? So then what happens is it takes time. So from the lab it go to incubation center where we have like think tanks who deeply take this forward to a goat, which is like great of all times. People have like 20 years, 25 years experience coming from PhDs and so on. So after that they give it to some department called, again, the you can say hustler department. They understand the market research, and AI helped a lot. We acquired a company in 2020 who maps consumer behavior algorithm for Facebook. So understanding consumer and addressing the pain point, looking for some company who is solving the problem in micro level, taking that company. So we acquired 14 companies and taking the company and associate with brands. Right now there's a brand called Carlton we have in India. So we made a cosmetics, basically not from any beeswax or something, so making from sea algae. So it's called marine wellness. So it not keeping us as carbon neutral, it is keeping us as carbon negative, which means if you grow mangrove forest, under the mangrove forest you get this algae, and out of algae you make some cosmetics which helps in terms of getting aging. So basically naturally you can produce some collagen. So this kind of innovation in micro level we are doing. If government puts some initiative in terms of setting up the R&Ds and addressing the real problem worldwide, maybe starting from India, maybe 30 years down the line we could see India, as you said, like we may have more products. Definitely I don't want to be a contract manufacturer. Definitely we should be a brand. If you have that innovation where people come and again asking, I want that. Because why people are coming to India? Because of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is life science, right? So I lived Himalaya for these many years, and for education somebody is saying something. So in Ayurveda there's a process called Garbhadhan, Garbha Sanskar. If you started doing that, so you'll get intellectual child, then everything will be changed in future. So my point of view right now is each and every company need to start their own startup ecosystem in terms of putting their own labs. So identifying a real challenge and then addressing the challenge through some incubation center and taking this forward may be a solution.
No, India has got all the ingredients very nicely. You have a huge, fantastic population, 1.4 billion, which we used to curse maybe 2 decades back, but today that's a market that the world is vying for. And these people do not have enough money. So while I said income disparity,
and we have all the problems in the world to solve.
Correct. Right from refuse.
That is the opportunity.
The mounts in Ghazipur and the Vidya Vihars of the world. But see, this constraint opens up, forces us to bring about business innovation. While you're talking that India does not have a mega brand which has gone from India to the world, I think some of the core problems that we have been able to resolve has been huge, not on the basis of physical infrastructure, but the leap that we have taken on the data side. And if all of us are getting worried about AI, machine learning, trying to take away, how is it that we can convert that, the TCS Infosys world of SOP driven value, which is one of the biggest industries, NASSCOM made that reality, to an IP driven world where we have the right talent. You don't need everybody to be fantastically educated. I just need that few IITs and the right kind of institutes which brings in the innovative talent which is solving problem by using tech or by using science, whether it be pharma, whether it be medicine, whether it be solving a data problem on the algorithm side. So I think we need to find, there will be a few innovators who will bring the solutions, mega market available, and the fact that it is a constraint because it's going to be low cost will always help. UPI, what we built in India, and it's not that one or two big brands made it. There was a public-private partnership. Today we're taking it to Brazil, we're taking it to other countries, the Middle East, the South Asia is willing to pick it up. The same story will play out in certain, it could be Ayurveda for all that if we are able to reinvent it, pack it in a very different way. So I think on one side we need to create that excellent education. So Shulini University, one of my old colleagues runs it in Himachal. Today he has a maximum number of patents. But do we reward it? A Stanford patent will be valued more than what is getting created in the biotechnology world from Shulini. I think this ability to recognize IP and the value that it brings on one side and bring in a lot more people who are moving away from a standard academic output to a skilled world. And again, all the engineers are coming out. What do you think? After they join an industry, they still spend 6 to 7 months getting skilled in that respective domain.
Of course.
Infosys made a fantastic model of a finical classes so that the banking could be populated. Today, in health, we do not have an EMR. I mean, there is one My Epic or an Epic sitting in the US, which is one of the most, what do you call it, an albatross in the making. Nobody has managed to move them because of the position. In India, there is an opportunity to build something like that. So how do we create these unique stuff? I seriously don't know what is the answer, but I don't think government is going to provide a solution. So government gives us the right status in terms of defining something as an infrastructure. Saying this is an infrastructure, let me give the benefits. They don't need to give PLIs and the subsidies. But if there is an industry where funding can flow, whether it's private or whether it's government, but if there is a model which you can build in, I think things will play out. So for me, build a damn good education at a broad level, but a very specialized, innovative story, and recognize those institutions.
Which is somewhat similar to what the Western model follows already.
Yes, but today we have all the ingredients. Right. They are seeking us out as markets. We have a model of build. That's what China did, no? They built it first. The fact that we isolated them, created value within. Now they are sitting and forcing us all to do a China plus one.
Now they are innovating.
Now we are becoming China plus one. Hopefully we'll be that one.
On the points that he said. One is our spending on the R&D print is around 0.6% of the GDP versus China, which will be nearly around 3% of the GDP. Now, I completely agree with 3-4 points. One of the points is, it's not about the patents and the value of the patents, it's the protection of the patents. Are patents which the R&D is developing in India, are they protected? And Gautam, who's my friend, can...
Are they globally protected, you mean?
Globally and in India, are they really being protected? Do they have the stringent laws that can really protect it, bringing back to the whole enforceability issue? Then comes the big question about competitive edge. Now let's say laptops will not be imported from overseas. You will get innovative. You will make sure that the R&D happens there so that they get... I'm not saying laptops should not come from overseas, but I'm just trying to say that as an example. I'm trying to give you one example that you can create innovation.
It did happen once,
I don't know.
Laptops are banned a little bit and then everybody got into it.
And the last bit, just taking the clue from what he said, the tax incentives. He's talking about no subsidies and PLI schemes. That's separate. I'm not even talking. But the tax incentives in the R&D are the MSMEs and the SMEs are finding it attractive from a tax incentive perspective. Now, these are factors. One, the government is not spending as much. But if you look at data, the R&D spend of the government is always equivalent to the per capita income of the people. So if you look at the per capita income of the people, general population, then in that it's commensurate. It's not bad. But if you look at it in comparison to China, we're far lower. Having said that, there are 3-4 things I believe, and I completely agree with it, but the protection of IP, the tax incentives, some of these factors do play a role in the R&D spend.
Yeah, India's patent system is quite difficult to get through.
I had a point, just taking a leaf from what Mr. Balakrishnan had said. I think for us as dairy industry, the only thing we require from the government, aside from the supports, awareness-related support, etc., that I mentioned, is just creating a level playing field for private sector dairy companies and other dairy companies. We're already more than 50% of the overall dairy market. And I think that will unlock a lot of value when it comes to innovation, efficiencies, stronger, resilient ways of doing things. So I think let's not overburden the government about our ask. Let's do things ourselves. But again, coming back to what our company has done, if I were to reflect back on our growth in value-added dairy products, be it curd, paneer, etc. We were one of the first dairy companies to venture into this space about a decade back. A decade and a half back, actually, to be more precise. And back then, we struggled a lot to create the first scaled curd in the Indian market. Today, it might sound very commonplace to find curd on a shelf in a grocery store in India or a general trade retailer. But back then, it was a very, very difficult process to find a product that would be shelf stable, that would be liked in terms of taste, etc. One thing that really helped us at that point in time is collaborating with our ingredient suppliers. So we worked with culture manufacturers and suppliers who saw the opportunity along with us, who worked with us to create cold chain resilient products which are palatable for the Indian consumer which are not as creamy, but would retain the Indian required texture of curd. It was a good 6 months of R&D along with them to be able to create this product, which is now commonplace and bought very commonly in retail versus being made at home, right? I'm sure most of our homes don't make curd anymore. We buy them from retailers. Similarly, of late, we've collaborated with a lot of multinational ingredient suppliers, such as culture suppliers, flavor suppliers, etc., to be able to create innovations specific to India, which are equally interesting for them because it's more cost effectively done over here, which they can take to other Eastern markets or back to the Western markets. Doing the same thing in Western markets is just inefficient. So I think collaborating with some of these partners has been very helpful for us as an organization in creating India-specific R&D.
What do you want to suggest in terms of how we can bring about an innovation mindset?
Even the government of India has brought in, I think, Anusandhan, National Research Foundation kind of a thing, almost like a 1 lakh crore for the next 5 years kind of. So I think the startups, which I think I agree with some of the panelists and all, which have mentioned that startups with the proof of concepts, like already national research institutes like CCMB, they have the Atal Incubation Centers, like any other ecosystems like startups here, also here. I think with that kind of a thing and the money which is supporting it and the best brains sitting there or there, I think maybe if not in next 5 years or maybe in 10 years kind of a things, I think we can catch up early of these concepts and all. I think we all know that Pharma 1.0 was generics and Pharma 2.0 is like complex generics kind of thing, and certainly Pharma 3.0 will be innovation. I think probably that will drive us through in that way.
For whatever little I'm seeing, okay, for all this thing we're talking, I think the movement to having these startups, a lot of young people stepping out, not working like me forever, wanting to do something exciting, interesting, finding problems, finding solutions. I think that momentum is catching on. I mean, last 10 years I've seen a huge shift, and I think it's just a matter of time. Okay, it's just that like we said, a lot of things about the government. They also took some steps, all of that. But if literally people are, in the sense this basic ecosystem is allowed, I think a lot of younger people which, who are capable and want to do something different, because they're not going to do the same old jobs and so on. I think eventually some of this will culminate into something really mega transformational. For example, waste, right? I know, including my group, my children, a lot of people are talking about how to handle that, how to do something about it. 10 years back, I would have, other than, as you said, Ramki or one or two, no one would even think about that, right? Today, people are at least thinking, and obviously it'll take some time for most people to figure out solutions and options which are scalable. But I definitely think, we are in for a big step change in the next few years if directionally we keep doing whatever we are doing now, is what I think.
We are 1/6 of the population of the global population. Since we can have, you said that 1.4 billion problems, I think we will have equally number of solutions also.
I'll tell you, simple, I came for business, I go to Reliance office, it's huge, humongous, right? And I did pet care earlier, pet care factory, whatever. And the number of young people who are feeding stray dogs within the campus, and they are so-called protected by family. So nobody can harm a stray dog within the Reliance campus. Just a small, simple thing is such a big change for me. In say 20 years back, people would be chaining their dogs and all kinds of those things. But suddenly in this generation, there's a huge shift.
There is.
Yeah, they have realized that human health is directly proportional to animal health also.
When she's talking about animal nutrition and things like that, I think, from a lot of stuff there is about, the background knowledge, the kind of education system, etc. But the opportunities which are presenting now will make some of these guys also go and pick up stuff. So that's where I see the change. Some from the government or the established system, but mostly from people seeing the change and wanting to create something is what I'm seeing that happening.
One thing that I think pharma industry does a great job of is make sure that a lot of their funds go back into R&D. So I think minimum 8% of revenue, as a percentage of revenue, is into R&D. But most sectors we won't see.
Who's
that.
putting 8% of revenue into R&D?
I think not much. I think I'm afraid. It should be that way.
4 to 5% there.
Yeah.
But in other sectors, you're not seeing much at all. 1%,
Yeah.
if at all. But when there's these emerging future core areas like mobility sector, whether it's on the EV side, whether it's on hydrogen side, all these are very much R&D led. Our organization has always been a technology application organization. There's technology available, we found ways to adapt it and apply it to India. But tomorrow we have to be technology development. So I think, business is there to make profits, of course affect change and make impact, but make sure that enough of your efforts, enough of your capital is going into R&D, and that's patient capital. It's not something that, you need to show performance onto the board in, next year, 2 years. That has to be something that's a continuous process, because as much as you want the ecosystem around you to develop, you need to create your own, at least limited to yourself, you need to have an ecosystem also. I think when private sector takes at least the first few steps, ultimately government can support, because we can show the way. Otherwise everyone's, standing around scratching their heads.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Malik.
The question is, why is it that most of our reflection on the future is in terms of catching up, with the China model, which is the manufacturing-centric model, or the brands coming out of the West, or it's a more consumption-centric model. I think we are a very unique country, where potentially more unique than probably any other nation, where we are a very large manufacturing base and a very large consumption base locally.
Right.
I don't think this combination truly exists anywhere else, especially with the potential demographic dividend that we are talking about. Now, given this, why is it that our models are so influenced by what others have done or are doing, as opposed to, I think, fundamentally rethinking the direction that we need to take? And one of the examples of that is that the traditional model of in economic value creation, where you mine, you manufacture, then you consume, and then you throw it. For India, is it truly sustainable? I mean, we are actually maybe 17-18% of the world's population now.
Yeah.
But we are only 2-something% of the world's land area. We don't have the mineral base of the world. We are talking about a future which is far more geopolitically, challenging than our past. I think, should we only be talking about whether to import laptops? What about ensuring that a laptop lasts the way your first laptop did? I'm sure it lasted 5 years. And today you're changing a laptop every year. Can this country afford to do that? As a nation, as an economy, or as an environment? I think fundamentally rethinking some of these things. Why is there only manufacturing and consumption only sources of value, and not remanufacturing or repair? I think India has a potential to be a repair giant. The number of jobs that can create and the life extension of resources that can create. So I genuinely believe we are currently our material intensity, if I can use that as a metric, of our GDP is about 0.8 kilograms per rupee of GDP. 0.8 kilograms of materials, which means we are using resources worth 0.8 kilograms, mined virgin resources, for 1 rupee of GDP. This direction is a disaster. Those mountains will only grow. We cannot keep just take, make, throw. So I'm just saying, because that's a very Western concept, and they can afford to do it probably. I don't think we can.
So you're saying that we should think about recycling more.
Not just recycling. I think we have to be more India-centric. I think we have to think more in terms of less dependence on imports for anything, and more recycling of resources internally.
That was my point. That is how innovation will happen.
Exactly.
That is how R&D will happen.
And I think a lot of the potential losses in our ecosystem today will get limited. EVs, we were talking about the fact that do our policymakers realize truly that the carbon footprint of a Tesla is significantly higher than a 15-year-old diesel vehicle which we are phasing out mandatorily? And that mandatory, banning of old diesel vehicles and saying that is what is causing the air pollution problem in Delhi, is that what is the right intervention? And pushing in EVs and in the name of sustainability? So that's why I said these are very Western concepts and constructs that need to be seen in the context of India. I think we need an Indian solution and an Indian future for this country.
So basically you're saying that we don't need global brand, but we need brands that are, yes, because we have enough people and we have enough resources built for us.
Manufacture for India before you manufacture for the world.
All these things boil to the same R&D and innovation, and also the product longevity, what he's telling, right? So I'll tell an example. When I was in Apple, we're trying to understand that how can we recycle the phone in the most efficient way, right? Rather than going into the mining, right? So mining is a altogether different problem rather than doing the recycling, and also having the shelf life more rather than using 4 years, 5 years kind of thing. So that requires a lot of innovation, because your product, your materials, and your longevity should be really well. Do you really need to change the phones or any other electronic devices quite that frequently, right? So, and those are the innovations which we need to inculcate. At the same time, the technology is changing very rapidly, right? Very rapid phase. So until there is a proper skill development is not happening in every vertical of the sector, like whether it's a pharma, whether it is a food industry, whether it is a energy industry, or whether it is a e-commerce. So that level of education changes. At the curriculum level, they need to change very fastly. It's not just like, okay, after 5 years something is coming. No, we need to think now what's going to happen 5 years down the line, right? So these requires a laser focus from private organization to the government institutes and everything. We all need to work in a collaborative way. So if you are working on a silos, it won't help anybody. Or if you are like this, it won't help anybody as well. So that's what. If you look at how China is heading in terms of technology development, there are like thousands of PhDs working for an organization, right? One organization can afford thousands of PhDs and working like armed forces, not like 9 to 6 job kind of thing. So unless we do those cultural changes with the proper enough capital for the R&D and technology development, and reuse the products rather than going back to mining, and all these things again lead to the environmental issues, right? So say for example, if you are coming from airport to this hotel, how much of pollution we are emitting. The biggest problem is again infrastructure, right? See how much emission the car tires doing nowadays. It's insane emission, because we frequently changing tires more than what we are doing, because the problem is with the road itself, right? So, and these things to be done at the mission level. It's not just like we put together a policy. No, it's not going to. It should be done at scale and at mission driven. Until it is not happening, again after 5 years, the same people met. We are going to talk the same thing again and again. So that's not going to work. But it should be doing at the mission scale. It's something like a space tech and a job. Okay, I need to lay a foundation for a road building for end to end without no traffics, nothing, and the quality of the construction and everything should be done at the grade what the international standards are there.
Just only small point on when he said we innovate. I mean, we create India-specific solutions, and I'm just saying what I said earlier. that some of this will apply to the rest of the world. It's not that we don't have, that's all I'm saying. Right? If we are smart enough to find solutions which will get actually exported.
And these can be cost effective.
Absolutely.
Especially for comparable economies, right?
Our sense of cost is so different to the rest of the world that we'll always be better off.
But we are losing it. We are losing it. We are losing the values that have distinguished us in the competitive global markets. We are losing them very fast. So I think frugal design. Today, our whole approach to R&D has become mega labs. If you look at space tech, which is probably the only real success story that we can all be justifiably proud of. Please see the entire evolution of the innovation there. It has been constrained innovation. And somehow greater the constraint, more was the innovation and the value of the innovation. So this current model of R&D, which is luxurious R&D, you know, huge air-conditioned labs, floors and floors of PhDs in white coats. This is the Western model again.
So we'll wrap up here. It's been such a phenomenal conversation. The only thing that I'd like to say is that we have come a long way.
Can I add one?
We have longer to go.
Yeah, I understand.
Is that what you were going to say? I just hope that all of you within your own industries, within your own companies, you keep imbibing the aspects that we discussed today. Try and, you know, bring in more innovation into not just your company, but into your ecosystem, the network that relies on your organization and that you operate with. So gradually then this whole thing can percolate up from the bottom. Thank you so very, very much. It was wonderful. We'll have to take a group photograph.
Thank you for organizing this.
Lovely.
It's really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your moderation.